Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of The Psychic Wives. I'm Kathy Rumsey.
And I'm Geri.
I'm Ginger Hendry.
I'm Genevieve Hackett.
Yay!
Nice to have you here with us.
Thank you.
So today we are talking about a super interesting topic, aliens. I don't know if they go by other names, but basically thoughts about aliens. And it's interesting because when we decided to talk about this topic, I don't really follow the news, but like the following week, it was in the news about basically our government, people from the government confirming that there is such a thing as, what do they refer to them as? Non-human beings, beings that are non-human or something like that.
Extraterrestrial beings. It depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Some people have gotten names like Octorians or whatever, but yeah, depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Is that what it was? All the news stuff? Because I kept saying UFO stuff, but I wasn't really.
Yeah, there was like a congressional meeting or something about.
So people confess to knowing that they have information about.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Whistleblowers. They're not the first ones. They're just the first ones that everybody's aware of. There's been a lot of whistleblowers.
Oh yeah.
Through the years, like back to the 50s.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So like pilots and stuff saying things.
Right.
Exactly. Genevieve, have you ever heard of a man by the name of Daryl Anka, he's a channeler, and he channels an alien being named Bashar?
I think I have actually. Now, when you say that, it sounds very familiar. I'm trying to when something's needling at you and you can't pull down what it is. That's what I'm doing right now. I know I'm part of
this. So he channels for this being named Bashar, and he has for some time said that 2023 would be their first contact, basically
really
widespread contact, but really that the big shift will be in 2026 2027 time frame
and what if he's saying that shift?
Well, then it'll be a more widespread contact by them, kind of thing.
I think they're more evolved than we are in a lot of ways. And what has to happen is they have to come in waves. It can't be all at once, because human beings are an aggressive species.
Right.
And it will just cause mass hysteria, because there's a lot of people that are afraid of extraterrestrials and aliens and that sort of thing. And then that's because that's what they've been taught. So I think their plan is to sort of come in publicly, at least, because I believe they're already here. I mean, publicly to be exposed a little bit at a time. I don't know what you all believe, but yeah, I definitely believe they're already here.
He actually talks about that, about the numbers of how many are here and that kind of thing. And it's really interesting because I do believe they're vibrating at a higher frequency. And he basically says, we're all the same energy. We're just higher, we're at a higher vibration. And he talks about, the humanness. You talk about humans being aggressive, which we are. And it's very ego driven, because humans think that humans are the end all be all, right? We do, as humans. We believe that there is no higher life form. And he kind of laughs about that and talks about how because of the way that we humans communicate with words, how basically unevolved we are, because we're so limited by our vocabulary. And the same can be said for animals. Look at the way that animals communicate with each other. We look at them and go, well, they can't use words. Well, they don't need to. They're actually higher evolved than that, and they're using so much more communication than we are. So
Well, I was going to ask you that because that came to my mind too. Is it the vibration? Because we just had a quick conversation before we hopped on about, you know, there seems to be a lot of passing of people, that and then a lot coming in sort of behind it. And we are evolving, right? As humans, we are raising our vibration. Is it that we are able to be in a more understanding place, a better place, or whatever, for them to be like 2023 and then 2026 and 2027? Is it because our energy is shifting, or
I
I
think
mean, I
it's
don't know if we know
more-
that, but
I think it's more of us adapting to the reality. It's one
Being
thing
more
to-
open to it, being more
yes,
open to
it's
it.
one thing to know about something. It's a whole other ballgame when you see it.
yeah,
Right.
You know, and so I think it would be, I really believe it would be too much for a lot of people if they were to just show up here openly and publicly and not be quashed by a government or what have you. I just do. I just think that it happens a little bit at a time. I think that more and more of us are trying to communicate with extraterrestrial beings or however, whatever you want to call them, higher evolved beings. I feel like more of us are, you know, I think we've talked about this before, walking away from what we've been told, the blueprint we've been given, and saying, you know what, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't fit. And the feeling that, you know, we like with movies like Predator and Alien and those things, like we've been shown that these things are scary and bad for so
Right.
long. Dr. Stephen
Except for the movie. Have you seen Arrival, which is, anybody listening, I highly recommend you watch it. Did you see Arrival?
no,
Oh my gosh, really? I thought we talked about this before. Maybe I'm getting the name of the movie wrong. About the alien encounter, and it's about a linguist who
Like
deciphers.
Jodie Foster, is that her? No.
She might have
Is it
directed.
a movie or a TV show?
It's a movie.
Okay.
I think it's called Arrival. I'll Google
Yeah.
Jen in it. It actually shows them they're trying to help us.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy says. So this guy, and this could be another discussion for another podcast someday, is he basically talks about the whole multiple realities and how
Sorry to interrupt, Kathy. Could you give me that name again? What's his name again?
Bashar, so Bashar.
Amy Adams stars in it. It was
Amy
interesting.
Adams, exactly, and Jason Bateman maybe, or the other guy that looks like him. There are two guys.
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner. I always get those two mixed up, and I'm sorry, Jason and Jeremy, but you guys are the same to me.
So Bashar is the
entity.
correct, and who's the?
Oh, Daryl Anka, Darryanka, and he's like now, like he goes back for a few decades. I think he's been doing this. He's very funny. Like when he channels, he's very, how do I say it, watchable. Like it's very interesting. I don't get the whole multiple universes that are all going on at the same time.
Metaverse, yeah.
You know, I mean, not to say I don't believe in it. I don't know enough to like believe in it or not believe in it. It just, my mind just gets scrambled every time I think about it. But I think it's super interesting. And I do think that I do believe that they're here to help us and help humanity.
Yeah.
Has anybody, so I have a friend who saw a UFO, like she knows the exact date. It's like, she's like, blah, 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 you know, whatever date, 1978. I was driving, you know, I had just passed this exit on Route 95 in Connecticut. And she described it so perfectly. And it's one of those memories that was like so big to her that like all these years later, she can tell you exactly what she'd been doing, exactly where she was going, what time it was.
Like when Kennedy died or Princess Diana died, like everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Very like, I'm not making it up. This thing was ginormous. It was in front of me. It was triangular shaped. It was this, it was that. And then all of a sudden, like it was just gone. Like it just gone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
we had something like that happen when we were young and we were skiing every winter break. My mom would take us and each of our friends skiing, and we'd get a cabin, and we were in Pennsylvania, and middle of the night, cabin in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods, and everybody woke up to this incredibly loud sound and bright light totally surrounding the house, and the trees and this huge sound that we all got up, and we were like running, looking out the windows, like, what the hell? We could see all this bright light, and then it just went away.
Yeah.
And we all kind of looked at each other like, and we spent days like, well, maybe it was a snowmaking machine, but like, no, but that's like one mountain over, and maybe it was, the ski lift, at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. It was just, and we just never. But we were all convinced. We all just looked at each other and we're like, holy crap, what just happened? You know what I mean? And we weren't, I guess we were probably junior high, so we weren't young children.
Mm-hmm.
We were, I guess, or you were a young adult at that point or whatever. But anyway, we weren't, in that stages of making things up,
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right.
And we weren't drinking yet. Well, we probably were at some point, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, so really cool. And I wasn't afraid.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were
The
afraid.
fear thing comes from, believe it or not, so a lot of these whistleblowers I was talking about, they have come forward and said that these stories about people being abducted and being probed and all that stuff, that was called a false flag. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but a false flag is when the government will say or do something and it's not true in order to gain support for their story. So, for example, if you look into how some of the wars have started, it's been false flags that have happened, and I won't get into that because that could be a whole thing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
some of the whistleblowers have said that was actually the U.S. government that was doing that, was kidnapping people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and think about it. If you can control people with fear, then you can maintain your authority.
Right.
Right.
Well, again,
want people to know, because if people know, then people become more interested in that, and there's just so many things that can happen from that. And so the government did not want people to know. But as social media grows and more whistleblowers are coming out, it's really hard for them to keep a lid on it. And that's why this most recent testimony in front of, I believe it was in front of Congress, is such big news, because this is, if you Google or you do your research, you'll see this has happened before. People have come out before. It's been investigated before, but this time around is different.
Well, and I think what's happening, and again, not to go down a rabbit hole with that, but that is continuing to happen currently.
Right.
No, don't, look, over the past 3 years, fear, you have to believe this, you have to believe this, you have to believe this, and everybody starts, oh my God, so that they have control. The government has control. But yeah, social media now, I think maybe the governments are like, oh crap, you know what I mean? Like we can't have it anymore, because a lot of people are starting to be like, yeah, no.
Yeah, and I don't think
their own truth,
They have to change their narrative in order to maintain having what they think they have of the control over people, and if you look back over history, religions, governments, everything, that's always how it's been, at least since as far back as we can remember. It's been like whoever, I would say aboriginally, I don't think it was like that, but I think once we became civilized, that was how a lot of this started,
Yeah, I don't think it's been the last couple of years. I think social media is what has brought this up.
I mean that there's been an intense effort to control the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
With COVID, with vaccines, with masks, with, that's just an example of you know, what Jen said, like, look over here, look over here, look over here. We're gonna make everybody afraid so they do what we want.
Right.
You know what I mean? But my point is with this, yes, the social media, they're not getting away with it as much as they used to be able to get away with it, because we
Right.
didn't question
Right.
back
Right.
then. We just did what we were supposed to do.
Well,
So
isn't
here-
it interesting too? Because
together-
oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, we had Mary Dalba on and she was talking about the energy that we're in now, you know, and she was saying that all things that have been hidden will come to surface. That and that's the energy of the planets right now. So it's just so interesting.
And isn't it also interesting, to your point, that artificial intelligence is becoming huge now, and you can't tell the difference between
Right.
what has been enhanced or altered or just created from artificial intelligence and what is reality. And that is going to be the battle around all of this. It's going
Yeah.
to be people saying, well, that was just AI, that was just AI. But if you
Right.
go back and you look, you can even look on Wikipedia. There's a whole list of ufologists, and there's a center for UFO research that's not government related, and they have all of this information is out there. You just have to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't rely on our fearless leaders. You have to you have to look elsewhere for your
And it's been going on forever, Jerry. I remember at the past life regression seminar workshop that we did, several people there had past life regressions and said, I was an alien in a past life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really it's fascinating. It's also very hard, because then you look on social media too, and you'll see these videos and people going, oh my God, what is this? And it's like, it's Starlink, you know. So
Right. Well, it was funny because I think I told you guys this. We had friends over and a couple weeks ago, and we were sitting outside, and I just happened to go like this. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, Starlink was going right over the house, right? And we were laughing about it because my friend's mom was there, and she said, can you imagine you're driving down a country road, middle of nowhere, you have no idea
Starlink's a thing.
that Starlink's a thing, and you look up and there's like a string of lights moving across the sky.
Well,
Yeah.
that just happened. That just happened in April, Jerry. It was in Michigan.
Oh,
And
somebody
then-
saw it and was like, wow.
A whole bunch of people saw
Yeah.
it, calling 911, and it was on.
Right.
It was captured on a police officer's
Okay.
body.
Yeah, yeah,
He gets out. He's like, "What is going on?" And then there's all these calls, and it turns out it was just Starlink.
yeah.
Right.
And then, you know, it's hard to.
Should have been some sort of like, hey, by the way,
Right.
Yeah.
y'all may be seeing this weird thing. It's fun.
One of those flags that go with it, like the Skywriters.
Yes.
Exactly.
Starlink.
Yeah,
Something.
make those letters form the word so that everybody
Yeah,
knows what it is.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Knows that it's man-made.
There's a whole bunch of things that are in the sky that look like UFOs, and a UFO, by definition, is an unidentified flying object. So if
Right.
you see it and you don't know what it is, and you call it a UFO, you are actually correct, because you don't know what it is.
Right.
Right? So alien ships are a whole different thing. And
I think
so
I object to, I think I have a problem with the word alien. Do you know what I mean? Because alien, you know, foreign, alien, it's got that bad connotation.
Alien to me is like a Hollywood,
Right.
you know,
like the movie
they're all-
Alien, the movie, like they're all bad. They're all,
Right.
you know,
or ET.
well, I mean, it really just means unknown.
ET, extraterrestrial.
So ET is extraterrestrial. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, in the sky, there's so many things that there are satellites, there
Yeah.
are the Safe Link thing, whatever it is. There's drones that people often will think is a spaceship. So it's really just knowing what to look for, and the more you spend time outside looking up at the sky and trying to make contact, the more you recognize what is an alien or a spaceship, and what is just a satellite or something. For example, I was sitting in the yard with a friend, and she lives near the airport. So we were kind of like, okay, that's a plane, that's a plane, that's a plane, that's what have you. And we saw this thing moving across the sky like this. And so we're like, oh, that must be a satellite, because every time I see a satellite moving, they're pretty
Sit in our-
steady
yeah.
clip, right? And they're going, yes, like a rainbow almost, right? And then it went whoop, and we went, okay, that's not a satellite.
Ah, that's wild.
Satellites don't do loop-de-loops, in the
Right.
sky. It was really cool. And then it just blinked out and took off. And
Yeah.
then there was this big, huge fire show in the sky. And we were like, what the hell was that? I actually didn't know what we were seeing. And I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my girlfriend was like, what was that? Only a little more colorful. And I was like, whew, I don't know. I didn't realize I was holding my breath. It was really amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Did you ever find out what it was?
Nope.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So I started to say earlier that Dr. Stephen Greer, he used to be a traumatologist. He's now a renowned ufologist. He did a couple of movies, one called Disclosure and one called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Contact Has Begun. And in those, he talks about how to contact extraterrestrial beings.
Oh, cool.
Talks about
Jen, what was his name again?
Dr. Stephen Greer. And he talks about the collective consciousness and shows you video and pictures of what they've captured. And it's funny, one of the beings they captured actually looks like the Fighting Irish guy from Notre Dame, the little
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that without the fists. It's really cute. And his method works. He has an app called CE5, Close Encounter 5. And in the app, there's all these free resources. You can find other people to do this with. But there are these tones that you play that attracts.
Sort of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember that movie?
I actually never saw it, so I don't.
Or was it Close Encounters, or was it just called Close Encounters? They're at the end, they're at the bowl, and did you guys see that movie?
I didn't, but I know
Dreyfus?
what you're talking about, but I don't.
Tones, Jen. They have this big thing with all these speakers, and they do these tones,
Yep.
and then the mothership does the tones back, and they're communicating.
Oh,
And then
that's
it starts
cool.
going so fast because there's a dude on a keyboard,
Of
and then
course.
it starts going so fast that they flip the switch and the computer takes over, and the two were having a discussion with this thing. Anyway, sorry to disrupt the tones. Keep going. I like that.
That is so cool. So yeah, no, so he talks about the whistleblowers, he talks about his journey. He's a really great resource if you're new to this, maybe watching the movie, keep an open mind. It can be very informative, but his app is called CE5 Contact. Again, it's free, you don't have to pay anything. And in that app are the tones. You play the tones over a speaker if you can. And then you do a meditation and you wait. And they say to have laser pointers to point up in the sky so you can show them where they are. I don't do that as a rule because I feel like if I don't want to get it in anybody's eyes and blind them. I have friends in the military who've told me that that's a thing. So I just don't do the laser pointers. I go, oh, look, hi. I tend to look at where I am on Google Earth and then project that out.
Like
So,
in your mind.
in my mind, yep. So that they can find me. I use my energy, I use my mind. It's really a neat way to make contact. And there have been things that have happened, like you hear voices or you see these ships and you can ask them, like, can you move a certain way? Can you go left or can you go right? And they will do it. And that's how you know that this is happening. And when you do it with a group, it's more affirming for you. So it's worth taking a look. I mean, and then there are books too. The Contact Paradox, that's by what the heck's his name? Keith Cooper. That's a really good book to read, to learn about more extraterrestrial stuff. I mean, and then there's Ancient Aliens. Right? Has anybody watched that show?
No.
Why is that? That's ringing a bell.
It's been on Discovery Channel and the History Channel, and it's on Gaia TV.
Oh.
It is an incredible show about, and they go, I remember one episode, I forget where they were, they went into some ruins and they played some music, and the way it reverberated throughout the ruin, you knew it was on purpose. The way they had it set up to bounce off of things, and everything is, if you probably heard, I don't know everything, but a lot of the ancients built things based on the stars.
Mm.
Right.
So who's to say that the Sumerians, who were these giants, weren't from a different galaxy,
Right.
right? Or any of them, for that matter, any of the races from history, the little tiny ones, the little, I mean, everything comes from somewhere, right? And that movie you were talking about, Geri, I would not be surprised at all if that was already a lot of science fiction shows up as science fiction so that we can,
Yes.
I believe, so that we can become used to the idea. I mean, do you remember Back to the Future when he was talking to people on the big screen on the TV? What are we
Yeah.
doing right now, right?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. The Jetsons, my God, going back to the
Watch,
70s.
Yeah,
right? That was a James Bond.
Maxwell Smart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maxwell Smart. Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And that movie is, and I believe it, I don't know if it won an Oscar, but it was definitely nominated for an Oscar. It was a really, and it's a few years old. And well, I mean, add in COVID, it's more than a few years old. It's probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe more. But
I think you can get it on Amazon, but yeah.
yeah, super fascinating. And yes, it's and it's very, you know, it's very telling about human nature, and again, how us being so adversarial and aggressive, you know, how that all worked, and that was not why they were here. And Bashar, you know, the speaking basically is saying, like, they're trying to help us save Mother Earth, you know, and basically saying our planets need Earth to stay intact. You know, they
Do they
can't,
say where they're from?
probably, I haven't watched all of his
Yeah.
stuff. So because a lot of the channeling he does is that I've watched is him answering people's questions.
Got it.
Because it's basically, he's just, you know, they're a higher vibration, they're a higher consciousness than we are.
Mhm.
Is he a YouTuber? Am I remembering that correctly?
I think he's on YouTube. I've seen his stuff on TikTok. He has, I think bashar.org is his website though. And he's actually out in Las Vegas, like imminently. He's selling tickets for it.
Good for him.
To do a show. Yeah. So he's very current, but he's been doing this for decades. It's fascinating stuff. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wait. Pausing in our, no, you have to show her.
Oh, the girl.
These are for those of you that are looking on YouTube. This is the new addition to the Rumsey family. Turn your face around, Zoe.
This is our new Chloe.
Look at the ears.
Hi, Chloe. Oh my God, she's so
Yep, the
She
main
kind of looks alien with those little ears.
She's gonna, like, the fact that she's gonna grow into those ears kind of frightens me because they're very large for her
They
little
are
body.
big. Yeah. Zoe.
She'll be a giant.
Chloe.
Chloe, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
Chloe.
okay. But if I were to get a second girl, I'd name her Zoe. That would be
Chloe
really,
and Zoe. Yeah,
right.
I like that. Cute.
Maybe I'll name the boy Joey.
Like Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Right. Oh, well, this is fascinating. Not one of our longer ones, but super fascinating. And it's just, you know, I think it's something for people to ponder.
I think it's a great idea, yes, to just put it out there, because I don't, and this is just my opinion, but I don't know how anyone at this point, and I'm sure there are flat earthers, for crying out loud, but I'm sure that there are people out there that believe that we are just us.
Yes.
And
Mm.
I'm in my opinion, I don't know how you could. I mean, if you look up and you can,
There's no way.
there's
right?
times in everybody, depending on where you live, there's times when you look up and you can actually see the Milky Way galaxy, which
Right,
we
right.
are a part of.
Right.
But there's so much else that's in that galaxy. How could you
How could you
how
assume
could
that
we
we're the only
possibly
one?
be the
Well,
only one? Then you also think about how could our galaxy possibly be the only one? And it always makes me laugh because I'm hoping everybody's seen oh crap, Will Smith,
Men in Black.
Men in Black. Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the
Favorite-
very first one, it's like the galaxy is like, there's a whole galaxy on this cat's
On the
back.
cat. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Or is that you, Frank, the pug?
yes.
That is the one of the only movies I can ever remember. My husband and I watched it like at home. It was on video or whatever. We watched it and we immediately watched it again, like same couch, same night, everything. It
Yeah.
was fascinating and so well done, but so
It
there
was
so
it was great
much
because
there.
you did start walking down the street and you're like, and when they do, what is this, Dennis Rodman, you're dying, right? Because you're like,
Yeah,
right?
Back to his
Right,
mother
right,
planet
right,
or whatever
right.
it
Right.
was.
But again, that whole, like, at the end, it's like the galaxy is on the bell, but and it's like dee 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 dee.
Orion's on Orion's belt, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
What I found most interesting about that movie was the part where Dennis Quaid, who plays the drunk father,
Yes.
right? When he says to the military general or whatever he was,
Oh no, we're talking about two different movies. I'm talking about Men in Black. You're talking about Independence Day. But yes,
oh yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Dennis Quaid. Yep.
So he says to the head guy, just so you know, sir, I was kidnapped by aliens when I was a child. And everybody still looks at him like he's crazy.
Mm.
Meaning in real life.
In the face of being invaded, these beings from somewhere else who've come
Oh,
to
I get what you're saying. Yes, you're
right?
right.
And then he's like, I've been kidnapped by aliens and I'm here for whatever he said. You know what I mean? Like it was really, really interesting. And then
I
you follow
never
up with
thought
a
of it.
movie- Yeah. And then you follow up with a movie like Men in Black, and they're in our faces saying, we are everywhere.
Yes.
Mhm.
How did that creative thought get into someone's head?
Exactly. Right.
It
Yeah.
is, but I think that Hollywood has just taken that to, I mean, it sells, right? So taking it to such an extreme it's hard for people to think that would be real. Do you know what I mean? Like
But I yeah, but there's the different kinds of it. Cause like, okay, Independence Day, they're bad,
yeah,
right? Men in Black, they're not all bad. They walk among us. They help us out. The little worm guys are like, they're smoking the cigarettes and, like,
Right.
I mean,
Well, look at Lilo and Stitch.
right.
I
Right.
haven't seen that.
The
never-
whole galactic thing going on there. It's like Star Wars for kids.
But then I think of that, and maybe because I love this comedian, but Kate McKinnon did a couple of Saturday Night Live skits where she is being interviewed because she was abducted with two other people from Saturday Night Live, and they're saying that's so beautiful and all this, and she's like, yeah, not for me. She's smoking a cigarette, and she's saying they probed me here, and I mean it's like a huge joke.
it was a while ago, right?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And the
it.
people the other actors that are interviewing can't stop laughing because she's so out there. So
Right.
sometimes that too is like, how can that be real? It's a joke.
Yeah.
So,
But then you do, as a writer, I've been always taught, write what you know, write
Yeah.
what you know.
yeah.
And what did you say before? Science fiction comes from science or whatever you were saying before. So how could you not believe that some of this is real? How could,
Right.
do you know what I mean? Like where are they getting it from?
Right.
But then, there's people have different brain structures.
Mhm.
So there are people that will never, even in the face of it, be able to believe or accept. They will say it is false. It will become a conspiracy theory. I mean, it's just,
Right.
and their brain structure is different than people like the
Mhm.
four of us, for example. I mean, we all have different brains, but our brain structure allows for us to make space for things that we don't know about so that we can learn about it.
Do you
Mhm.
believe that that's brain structure, or they
Vibration.
just haven't
It's physical structure.
opened up and unblocked things? You feel it's a physical structure, so they never have the ability to ever get it.
It's been proven in psychology.
Oh,
For
interesting.
example, Republicans who are true Republicans and Democrats who are true Democrats, right? Not the people that waffle, but I'm only voting Republican. These are my beliefs, blah, blah, same thing with Democrat. They've been studied. They actually have physically different brain structures.
Which would explain why some can't even have a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Exactly. It's why I believe it's in part why the human race can't coexist with
Mhm.
itself.
Well, that
Interesting.
would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can argue, for example, I'm not picking on any specific group. I'm going to use Christianity as an example. The extreme people who are extreme with that, or their brain structure doesn't allow them to believe differently, however you want to word it, their belief is if you do not follow Jesus, you do not go to heaven, that your soul is in peril. And they tell you all of these things are bad. These people are bad because they have a specific gender identity or sexual orientation, or they live their life a certain way that's not in what they believe is in line with the Bible. But at the same turn of the coin, if they could make room or be more open, as you said, they would see that Jesus never said
Right.
only X, Y, and Z can come here, and you should judge them until you can convert them. You should tell
Right.
them that they're bad or they're wrong until you can convert them. So it's kind of like this like it's this one-way thought process. And I think part of it has to do with, and these are my own musings, I don't, I think part of it has to do with why we come here to have the human experience, because I can't even tell you how many times in this life I've been like, why did I do this to myself? Why
I know.
the vibe was higher? And so I think when regards to aliens, it's kind of a similar thing. They're not physically capable of accepting it or believing it or what have you. They're just not. And it is what it is, right? We just have to sit with that and let them have their journey, and we have our journey, and we make friends with intergalactic beings, and they miss out. That's how I look at it.
Mhm. You snooze, you lose.
Yeah, right. Scout, Boy Scout.
Interesting. Well, so lots to think about from this one. I'm gonna definitely look up those couple things that you mentioned and
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of notes on this one.
right.
Yeah, me too. And I would ask maybe that, okay.
Go
What?
ahead, teacher, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I would ask anybody who's listening to jump in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
I would love to know what other people think, what other people may have seen or heard, or it'd be really, really interesting discussion.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add too that I get a lot of emails from people who are interested in this, but and they don't have anybody to talk to about it. So if you can go to, is it okay if I say my website? Is that
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can go to my website, which is GenevieveHackett.com, and
Which is also on our website. There's a link to it. So yes.
hey, thank you.
Yeah.
And send me an email. Just send an email and be like, hey, I heard you. I'll talk to anybody about almost anything.
Oh,
Well, if you need a safe place to talk about it, or you're more interested in it, or what have you, I'm by no means an expert, but I'm very firm in where I stand with my belief that they exist. And I'm always willing to talk about that with people. So I invite you to do so.
great.
interesting.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, this was interesting and like I said, it's a hot topic right now all over the place. So I'm glad we touched on it a little, lots of food for thought, as it were.
Quick question. The other hot topic right now is Barbie. Do we think that Barbie has an alien Barbie? Is that a thing?
Oh, I don't know.
Now, so I wasn't sure if that was like,
I haven't seen the movie, and I've seen a
I
lot
haven't
of
seen the
like
movie either.
snide or snotty remarks about it, looking at Barbie as whatever. And then I've seen a couple of people who have seen it, who said, no, there's a whole undertone to
Yeah.
that. So don't just
not
look
for
at it.
children. Yeah, I heard it's
Yeah,
not for
It's
children.
not for children,
Oh,
right?
no, it's definitely not
Well,
for children.
it's one of those, it's like a good animated, Pixar or Disney movie where children will get out of it what children will get out of it. And
Right.
it's very adult. There's a lot of themes to it.
Those probably, yeah. I
I
heard.
actually, look, I had no interest in seeing it, but now that I've seen all the reviews and stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go to the theater to see it, but I will definitely be watching it when it streams.
I heard they
Yeah.
have the Barbie, like every little girl had one that they cut the hair, or they put like a beauty mark on its face or something. And I heard they have one of those Barbies there. She's like they feel bad
yeah,
for her. She's
funny.
like all chopped up and everything. Maybe that's the
There-
alien Barbie. I would love to see that.
I never played with Barbies as a kid, but I'm
I didn't either.
interested in seeing
didn't
Ryan
either.
Gosling without a shirt on. So there's always that,
There's always that. I played with Barbies. Definitely played with Barbies. My sisters and I did. And there's a meme going around right now. It says something. I posted it actually. I shared it. It's something to the effect of Barbie never gave me insecurities about my body. She just taught me that you can't put a head back on once you pull it off or something.
exactly.
And then high heels
Life
suck.
lesson right there.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
funny.
Well, thanks, Jen, for joining.
Yeah, thank
For
you.
having me again.
Um,
This is nice.
As everybody knows, because we say it every time, you can find us at thepsychicwives.com, on Facebook at The Psychic Wives, and on YouTube at The Psychic Wives.
Mhm.
So until next time.
Be well.
And be kind.
Bye, everybody.